Before I even knew anything about spirituality, I thought I was losing my sanity. In my other videos, I talk about mental health with the topics diagnosed based on human psychology and diagnosis. When one does awaken, they see the world differently. Everything is viewed with a whole bunch of love and light. But before my heart exploded with love and light, it was antidepressants and gloom. And life was based on holding on by a thread to my sanity while thinking whether or not I should check myself into a mental ward. So this is the dark before the light. And before I do begin, I just want to mention that this is not to change your beliefs. It's not to start a petition on world peace or to make any statement on how one should live. It is to reach out to those who are on a familiar path, hopefully giving you a shift in perspective that is above the human conditioning. So I'm here to tell you guys, you're not going crazy. So our life is based on pursuing materialistic objects, making more money, being accepted, finding love, and finding happiness. During the first stages of an awakening, it is a breakdown of a paradigm shift. So in your present moment, your current state of mind, where the conscious mind is suddenly incapable of living. And through this, you see life beneath the veil, the illusions of believing that looking for happiness in the external is suddenly dissolving and realizing that none of these things you once desired had actually made you feel complete. I call this stage the death before the rebirth. It's an awakening to a higher level of consciousness. Like a snake that sheds its skin, it's shedding your old life that came from a somewhat less authentic lifestyle, an awakening to the start of one of the most beautiful experiences you will ever encounter. And once you awaken to your authentic self, your mission in life, your soul purpose, and finally, you awaken to the gifts you were all born with. Beginning with the Ascension process, I remember having this dream that I was on an escalator that went higher and higher. It stopped when it reached the clouds, and before me was the gates of heaven. And I paused and looked down and saw the world from a higher place. And the world that I saw was beautiful. A world that I didn't see while living in it. And when I woke up, I started to cry. And this was when I started to write a journal. A journal which, when I read back on it today, I have no memories of even writing them. It was a scream from my higher self, or my intuition, or source, whatever you want to call it, basically reaching out to me through my writing. This was when I started to see the synchronicities. So I was hearing things, whispers. I was seeing dark and light. I was seeing colours around people. And I felt disconnected from everything, from society and from life. And I couldn't explain how I felt to anyone. So I started to see the world we lived in differently. The next thing that happened to me after having that dream about Heaven's Gate is what they call a Kundalini awakening. Now, before I even knew what that word even meant, I can only explain the physical symptoms of what was happening through my body. So I was laying in bed one night when all of a sudden I started getting hot and cold flashes, and then I started feeling this electric shock from the bottom of my feet, and it was going up and up and up until it reached my head. I only found out about the title Kundalini a couple of months ago, but I had the symptoms about 2 years ago. So Kundalini is the flow of energy that runs through our body and activates the chakra points starting from the base of our spine, flowing upward until it reaches the top of our head. Metaphorically, it stands for the power of the higher self or higher consciousness, based on the fact that Kundalini is traditionally originated from the Hindu tradition. The only equivalent in the English form is the Holy Spirit or Source. So otherwise it's known as a coiled serpent that is resting at the base of your spine and eventually awakens. It is the goddess within you awakening you to your gifts. If you haven't gone through the awakening process and have just researched Kundalini, I do not recommend the attempt to awaken it or activate it, as it can create psychological issues, which is what happened to me. It went on for months and months, and not knowing what it was, I thought it was anxiety or epilepsy in my head. And the best way for me to explain the Kundalini process is to go through the 5 elements of life, being earth, wind, fire, water. each of them playing a role in our emotions. The way I see it is that earth is us being grounded, so being in an environment where it's normally stressful and balancing our emotions so that we are calm and remaining focused in the environment that we are situated in. Air being, again, emotions that we cannot see but we can feel. So if it's basically out of balance, it's swirling all around us, and if we're not careful, it can basically go in any direction, in any way, shape or form. We can't control the wind, however, we can be mindful in which direction it takes. Water being our emotional state and allowing it to sort of flow, so going with the tide. Fire, which is the passion within our hearts. So love is what I call the fire within us. Our passion, our desires, our hopes, our dreams. So tying all of the elements in, it basically tells me that allowing the emotions to flow through us as opposed to testing it or to resist it or to deny it, which is what I did, can ultimately bring about the chaos that comes with each element. So again, I'll break down chakra points in our system. The first chakra, which is at the base of our spine, is called the root chakra. It's associated with the color red, and the chakra that is closest to the earth, so being grounded, and it's to do with our physical survival. The second chakra, which is called the sacral, being the color orange, located between the base of your spine and your navel, so it represents desire, pleasure, sexuality. The third chakra, being called the solar plexus, associated with the color yellow, located a few inches above the navel, and is basically in relation to our emotional feelings of personal power, joy, anger, and laughter. The fourth chakra being the heart chakra, associated with the color green, being the very obvious one located in our heart. So it is representing our love and compassion and harmony. This being unbalanced can manifest the feelings of unworthiness and the lack of unprincipled behavior relating to how we view ourselves and love. The fifth chakra being the throat chakra, associated with the color blue, it is in relation to communication, probably what I like to call the most important chakra, because it is speaking up and stating our truth, because we all have a voice and we all have the right in regards to expressing and using our voices and how we feel to others. The sixth chakra being our third eye. Now this is located in our forehead between our eyes. Sorry, it just sounds weird. So the color is indigo, in relation to our inner vision, intuition and wisdom. The seventh chakra being the crown, so at the very top of our heads, the color violet. This is what I call when our minds download information surrounding life. It processes it. It's how we understand things. It's how we accept things. It's basically understanding our divine purpose and personal destiny. So again, if it's unbalanced, it does result in psychological problems, which is what happened to me. So I hope that sort of gives you guys an insight in regards to our emotional and physical symptoms. And of course, I can say all of this with such passion, but 2 years ago, when I was first going through the awakening and the Kundalini awakening thingy, I can assure you that if I'd known all this, I wouldn't have gone 2 years through trying to explain to many different doctors what was going on with me, with them not being able to explain it to me, and trying to block out everything else that I was seeing, hearing, thinking that I literally was going crazy. And after I had the Kundalini awakening, I started seeing colors, I started seeing auras, I started feeling people's energies, I started to feel other people's emotions, I started hearing people's thoughts. And it scared the crap out of me. I did wake up to that power of me becoming an empath. So again, I rejected my gift, thinking it was a curse. I didn't want to feel other people's pain, anger, hurt, or anything like that. It was as if I absorbed everyone's energy and sort of kept it within me, getting confused with which one was my own energy and which one was theirs. But back to spiritual awakening, it is a natural product of soulful maturity. Soulful maturity is the process of inner growth and expansion. Just as everything in life grows, so do we as human beings, and our connection with our own souls. And the more you connect with your soul, the more you experience transformation to your authentic self, which is fulfillment, freedom, and love. We learn to speak a language of the universe. We understand the core issue that is hidden beneath our present challenges. While some will say that it does bring you closer to God, you don't have to have that belief. For me, it's understanding exactly why you're here and the purpose of why we exist. More deeply into reclaiming our power, we realize that we've been on a mission all along. So if you have gone through a spiritual awakening or going through the process, the best advice I can give you, treat yourself with love and compassion, having the courage to face our inner demons and to go deeply into healing. Once we awaken to that, we step into the mission of our journey through life.